today. I'm Marlon Bowling with you as we get ready to open up another trading session. We're in the middle of our trading week, and once again, USDA said we had some overnight export sales to talk about. Let's take a look at what we had this time. Is it a surprise? Is it the same as what we have been seeing? Well, you be the judge. It is soybeans, and it is sold to China. The amount, instead of 132,000 tons, they mixed it up a little bit. 131,000 tons today. So they changed it by 1,000 tons. Not sure what that's about. It must be a slightly smaller boat this time. Anyway, another sale, and here to talk about it, let's bring in Brian Hoops, president of Midwest Market Solutions. I believe we're looking at 10 days in a row. Is that correct?
Good morning, Marlon. It is correct. We're 10 days in a row. And I think yesterday when we talked, I mentioned that we were probably getting close as far as tonnage goes of reaching the 30 metric ton or 30 cargoes that China had purchased. And yesterday there was some rumors that they had bought another 4 to 6 cargoes. So that would put them up around 36 cargoes of U.S. soybeans that they've bought. And this is likely a reflection of that. So, assuming that these unknown destinations end up being China, it looks like, China's going to continue to be purchasing some soybeans over the next several days. At least the announcements will be reported that way, probably for the rest of this week and maybe into early next week. And then we'll see if China continues to be a buyer. But it's good to see this type of demand from China. Soybean market has not reacted real positively to it the last 2 days. So we'll see if we can get some sort of a bounce or recovery off of this. But it's pretty widely known. This isn't a surprise to the trade that China is buying U.S. soybeans.
This overnight trade is just wearing people out. I hear more comments about that you look at it one time and you may have the grain markets trading one way, and you look at it 20 minutes later and they're totally reversed, or they're greatly exaggerated from what they were last time you looked, and back and forth they go all night long. Let's take a look at what we had on the overnight trade. The corn ended up 2 cents higher. The December was at 565.5 per bushel. And with our quotes provided by Bar Chart, let's move on to those soybeans. Interesting dynamics at work here. We had November soybeans with a high of 1365, a low of 1352.25, and they ended up at 1358.5. When it was all said and done, they were down 3 cents on the evening trade. In the wheat, let's go to Chicago. December, 4.25 higher at 752.75. Remember, the wheat markets had a hard sell-off yesterday. In Kansas City, you had December 4.5 higher at 733.75, and Minneapolis spring wheat trade overnight, December 6.25 higher at 913.75. Was that more technical related yesterday in that sell-off in the wheat, Brian?
Yeah, I think it was. We had a a really sharply higher U.S. dollar index yesterday, and that really affects the wheat market, and that you kind of forced that market lower. We had a lot of sell stops. The market was extremely overbought anyway and due for some sort of a correction. And I think we've seen that and undergone that correction here now with lower prices. And, one thing I wanted to mention on the soybeans is if this is all China buying, they're buying the cash products now. It's likely they had bought futures earlier, whether that's lower or higher prices. And if they did buy those futures earlier, they're probably selling the futures now as they announce the cash sales. So that is another reason why the soybean market's not reacting like a lot of people want it to, is there is some futures being sold against it in the form of unwinding long hedges.
And the one thing missing this morning, any mention of corn. Haven't seen corn listed for quite a long time, and making traders really nervous. All right, we'll come back and talk a little livestock when we come back after a quick little break. Well, now let's talk a little about that livestock trade. We're talking with Brian Hoops of Midwest Market Solutions. Brian, the beef cutouts, it's always interesting to talk with you about what's going on with our beef cutout trade. Yesterday afternoon, the USDA report said that the choice cuts were up $8.26. They were priced at $338.06. $338.06. Selects up $322 yesterday, and that would put their price at $306.77. So we're getting up into some pretty lofty territory there. On the choice cuts 1 week ago, they were $305.32. So now we're basically almost $33 above where we were a week ago. And I was mentioning this on my radio show last night. the gains seem to be accelerating, if anything, on the wholesale beef trade.
You're exactly right. They are. And, from a producer standpoint, they would love to have some of this increase shared with them in form of higher cash markets. And we haven't really seen that over the last 3, 4 weeks as well. And, it's that same time period. We'd like to see cash prices come up. And I think they're going to, or they're starting to. We saw some dress trade yesterday, $3 to $4 higher than the prior week. And I think once the trade starts to develop in the South, we could see higher money once again. Numbers I do think are going to tighten up here and become much tighter. Now, the show list numbers this week do not indicate that. They are larger than a week ago, but overall, and I think you'll see that confirmed in Friday's cattle on feed report, the numbers are going to shrink a little bit, and placement numbers continue to come in well less than a year ago, which should be supportive to those back month futures once again.
All right, well, let's take a look at where we closed yesterday here on our futures trade. And we'll start with our live cattle board and our quotes provided by Bar Chart. On live cattle yesterday, it was a downward trend as we got to the end of the day. October was down $1 even, 128.12. We'll see if they can regroup or not. Interesting how the futures are going down when the wholesale beef trade just keeps rocketing higher. On the feeders, you had September down $1.07 at 160.92. And there again, a little bit baffling because of the weakness in the corn market lately. And on lean hogs yesterday, December was down 77 cents. The nearby October contract, the one that has been making the big moves, it was down $1.10 yesterday at 87.90 per hundredweight. So we'll see what they do today. Well, Brian, thanks for the time today. Brian Hoops of Midwest Market Solutions. He's in Springfield, Missouri. Janet, I'll turn it over to you.